This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
All right, welcome. Kenny B off this week. The show itself, though, never off. It just keeps plugging away. And, you know, one of these days we're going to be able to focus on something other than COVID-19. But for now, it continues to affect the ag industry, so we need to address it. Coming up, the effects it's having on blueberry season 2020 and why it's not the only thing causing producers to lose sleep. Of course, with so many farmers and ranchers taking a hit to the wallet, you often worry about their mental health. Yes, tough subject to talk about, but one that can't and shouldn't be ignored. We'll hear from a specialist on ways to seek help if need be. And then later, it's a unique perspective from one of Georgia's pine tree growers, the ways in which he and his family go about practicing good stewardship and why they invest the time and money to grow the trees in the first place. All this and more starting right now on the Farm Monitor. Well, as we speak, producers in Bacon County are working night and day, harvesting the 2020 blueberry crop. This year looked to be a good one, actually a great one, but COVID-19 changed that drastically. John Holcomb reports.
It's springtime, which means it's blueberry time here in Georgia. After a couple of rough years, growers were hoping to have a good year in 2020, and up until the last few weeks, growers thought that this year was going to be a good one.
A little milder of a winter than we'd like to see, not quite as much chill hours. The fruit set was kind of up and down. The blooming period was good early on and then started getting delayed a little bit and ended up with some poor pollination issues. But it was setting up for a bumper crop because of the increased acreages here in the southeast Georgia area.
Sadly, though, when it was time to start harvesting, the COVID-19 pandemic was widespread, which meant the H2A program was practically put on hold, and producers either couldn't get started harvesting or they got behind schedule, contributing to even more problems.
We've been harvesting fruit, struggling at it for about 3 weeks, and obviously a smaller amount, and it's getting heavier and heavier. And we've had quality issues, we've had rain issues that we were not able to stay on top of in a better manageable position in the past.
And to make matters worse, even if producers could get their berries harvested, they didn't have anywhere for them to go.
When the grocery stores had to start isolating and limiting the number of people that would go into the stores in order to have good social distance, and when people started being more concerned about going to the store, going by once a week maybe or every couple of weeks and buying things and even looking at more essential stuff, the traffic in these areas had slowed down to where our product, blueberries, were not in front of people as they had been in the past as much.
This year being yet another challenging year for growers will definitely have some consequences. Wade says he thinks he'll be okay, but is afraid for what this might do for others.
I do feel like we're going to survive through this. There's going to be scars. There'll be people who were stretched financially more. They may not go through this. We've had a couple bad years in 17 and 18 here in southeast Georgia with freezes, and it's affected some people pretty serious. There's been some government help that's helped on some of that, and we're not sure what's going to happen this year with maybe some government help too, but there's only so much the government can do.
But just because the government can only do so much doesn't mean others can't, which is why Wade is asking shoppers to make sure they're buying products grown in the U.S.
If you go to the grocery store and have a chance and you look, and you can buy Georgia or you can buy USA blueberries from the United States, then you can help support us. There's a lot of things you can do in it, but look, see where your fruit's from. If we have some neighboring states that has produce that's in, buy local, and buy local even means buy within the United States. That's one thing I love for people to just be more aware of. There's ways of helping us.
Reporting in Alma for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
All right, thank you, John. In other commodity news, the National Cotton Council has created a page on its website providing members with continuous updates and resources from multiple federal agencies. There's also a detailed information on there about the CARES Act, including the changes made to USDA's Marketing Assistance Loan Program. Reese Langley, VP of Washington Operations for the Council, explains those changes.
Also, as part of that legislation, it does allow USDA now to extend the term of marketing assistance loans. And this would apply on cotton for both upland and ELS or PEMA loans. And it will extend the term of those loans from the current 9 months to 12 months. USDA will be issuing guidance on this. USDA staff have already confirmed for the Cotton Council how this is going to work and that these loan terms are automatically being extended for that additional 3-month period. Nothing else will change. The repayment provisions and other components of the marketing loan program would remain the same. At this time, the Council's staff and industry leadership are working quickly to develop some industry proposals to provide the USDA and Congress on the type of relief programs and additional assistance that's needed to support the industry from the growers all the way through to the textile manufacturers as we continue to confront this crisis. And a lot of this is outlined on the Council's COVID-19 resources page. Please visit that page to see what is available and check that site frequently as we keep it updated as additional information and resources become available.
Meantime, with unemployment reaching unprecedented levels, food banks around Georgia are now feeding more families than ever. And thanks to farmers upping their donations and one Atlanta business providing the workforce, that increase in demand is still being met despite all obstacles.
Chris with SERC and I have had a relationship for a long time, and when COVID-19 happened, Chris reached out with a need that a lot of the farmers, both in Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Alabama, had of product that literally they needed to find a conduit for. And so he reached out, we started brainstorming and came up with what we're doing now.
We've always had great relationships with the farmers in Georgia, and we're so grateful to that over the years in the past, as well as with the Georgia Food Bank Association and also the Southeast Regional Cooperative and the whole Feeding America Network has been very grateful to our farmers here in the state of Georgia for their contributions in the past. And now that's actually stepped up quite a bit as they've obviously had some increase in their capacity to help us. They've just stepped up and been right there for us throughout this. We typically pay farmers picking and pack out costs. We help them recoup their costs for packaging, for the picking, and for some of their operational costs. That's always been something that we've tried to do, and we continue to do that in this situation.
We have loads anywhere from 6 to 10 loads a week coming in of product straight from the farm that we're able to repackage into 20-pound boxes with a variety of 4 to 6 different vegetables or fruit. And we're able to palletize that, and then within a couple of days, the network of food banks is able to come and get the product and distribute it to all over the Southeast.
We're able to use the boxes as sort of a direct, no-touch, something they can just take off a pallet and give to a client or a family that's in need, and there isn't the need for them to have a lot of volunteers and direct contact with folks.
Before COVID, basically, they would ship this direct to food banks. All the volunteers would come in and break it down into whatever the consumers needed. And so we're basically doing that here. Because we are SQF Level 2 certified, we're able to have a team of people basically operate and shift the product, break it down where we need to, and then do the work of the volunteers. Instead of at a local level, we're able to do it here.
Volunteers are appropriately sheltering at home, and a lot of our volunteers are seniors. And so we have the Georgia National Guard. We have 162 members of the Georgia National Guard deployed to 9 warehouse locations, helping us pack food, driving forklifts, driving trucks, helping to distribute food. About 4 weeks ago when the schools shut down, we saw an immediate increase in demand, and it has been a sustained sort of 30 to 40% increase. It is higher in the coastal area around Savannah, where so many restaurants and hotels have closed.
We're able, instead of doing restaurants and hotels and colleges and universities, we're able to now shift and make sure that we're helping out the food banks and the co-ops by just adding value to the product, taking bulk product and breaking it down into smaller boxes.
A lot of the groups that food banks serve are folks who are food insecure. Well, a lot of the industries that have been affected by this event have folks who oftentimes are 1 or 2 or 3 paychecks away from being in a situation where they need the help of a food bank, and the food banks are happy to step in and help.
Yeah, so much uncertainty and desperation right now, and all too often that can make a person feel there's no hope in sight. But there is. That's next when the Farm Monitor continues.
Hello again, I'm Sonny Perdue, and I want to thank you for what you do in the food supply chain. Many people don't recognize there are a lot of inputs that come in to make this the breadbasket of the world, whether it's fertilizer, feed, seed, crop protection chemicals, or all those things that make our farmers some of the most productive in the world. You do it better than anywhere, and thank you for continuing to show up for work, because without these tools that you all make, we couldn't provide the food that goes on our grocery shelves. You're a vital link in the food supply chain, and once again, I want to thank you, and your employers want to thank you for continuing to do what you do every day. America thanks you, and so do I. For our grocery industry, again, you're the people that have the customer-facing responsibility. You face the anxiety of customers coming in, looking at your shelves, but I want to tell you what a great job you've done in helping to calm the fear of anxiety of this pandemic, and what you're doing to keep those shelves stocked from all your people who are unloading and stocking and bagging groceries, checking people out, just helping people. You know, people depend on you day in and day out, but even more so now, your job is so much important in the spirit of America and how we get together and come together. You're doing a great part of that, and for the bottom of my heart, my family and I, and all of America, thank you.
When it's all said and done, quarantine's over, people back to working full time, then and only then will we get a better picture of the impact COVID-19 has had on this country. And that includes the number of suicides. Experts say it's reasonable to expect the current pandemic will lead to increased suicide risk for certain populations. Not a comforting thought, especially when it comes to farmers who already have a high suicide rate. That's why we felt the need to revisit a report by our John Holcomb on the subject of suicide. John spoke with a behavioral health professional about why farmers are more vulnerable and what's being done to help them.
According to the CDC, farming is ranked one of the worst vocations for people taking their lives. But why is that? What makes farmers so much more susceptible to suicide, and what is being done to fix this problem that is claiming the lives of those that are producing the food and fiber for our world? To help answer those questions, I recently sat down with Jennifer Dunn with the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities.
Farmers particularly, they're entrepreneurs. They're very successful. They're used to doing things for and by themselves. When you ask a farmer what they do, they typically don't say, do farming. They are farmers. They're a part of their existence. It's part of their livelihood, and particularly those individuals that farm, they are used to doing things that are in their control.
However, there are often things out of their control, like hurricanes, commodity prices, droughts, pests, and the list goes on and on.
Those are things that are outside of their control and can be really, really stressful. And so as a result, that might be a little bit harder for them because they're used to being able to do things for and by themselves. And if they are needing to seek help from somebody else, that's just not something that they're used to doing because they do everything. They do the books, they do the manual work, they do top to bottom. So that might make it a little more difficult.
And that's where the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities comes in.
We are the Behavioral Health Authority for the state. We work with community service boards, providers. We call them our safety net providers. We have private providers. We have contracts with agencies that work with individuals who have behavioral health needs and developmental disability needs.
A huge part of the problem in the farming community is the fact that the topic of behavioral health has almost become a taboo topic, which makes people think they shouldn't talk about it. However, Dunn and her organization is working to change that.
We want to let people know that it's okay to reach out, that people are available to talk, people are available to hear your story, to hear what you're going through, and to navigate you through the system so that you're not alone.
In order to do that, they have things like crisis centers in different parts of the state and crisis lines you can call. But they will also go one step further and meet people where they are, literally. and it's typically people that can actually relate to what someone may be feeling.
We have a lot of people that have thoughts, people that are suffering, people, that are sad, people that might need assistance. And we have resources, so we want to connect them with the resources. We also have a lot of people with lived experience that are in a life of recovery. And so those individuals typically can be very, very helpful. We hire a lot of those people. Sometimes they go on to pursue educationally and come into our field, and we hire them as, even if they don't, so that they can be kind of personalize the story with that person. They can relate to them in a way that somebody who hasn't experienced it can relate to them.
Reporting in Thomasville for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
Great job, Mr. Holcomb. And folks, don't forget, if you missed any part of John's story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel. Plenty of stuff to choose from, full-length shows, recipe segments. The archive goes all the way back to 2009. And while you're there, keep clicking, like the Farm Monitor Facebook page, and go ahead and send us some feedback, please. If you have a story idea, or if you just want to leave us a comment or suggestion, send us a message either on Facebook or at the address on your screen. That is news@farm-monitor.com. Up next, it's a unique look at the harvesting and replanting of a pine stand through the eyes of a Georgia landowner.
So driving through Georgia, you can drive for hours and hours and hours. You can even drive down the wiregrass trail and drive for hours and never actually see a longleaf pine. Most of the pines that you see are planted slash pine, especially South Georgia, planted slash pine, loblolly, almost always those two species. In the last 25 years or so, we are planting some longleaf pine, but the significance of longleaf, it's a drastic, superficially it sort of resembles the other pines, but it's a totally different tree with a lot of highly desirable characteristics from an ecological standpoint and also a lumber standpoint. I mean, the usefulness of longleaf, it's generally speaking a slower growing tree in a natural situation. It's a fairly slow growing tree. And as a planted pine, it actually does very nearly as well as slash pine now. It may be a little bit slower to get started, but it eventually will catch up to slash pine. But in a natural situation, longleaf, if you think about a tree that's exposed to fire every 1 to 3 to 5 years, we tend to think of longleaf as, fire tolerant, but it's not completely invincible. And fire is, it does damage the tree. It does slow the growth on the tree to some extent, especially repeated fires over very, very many years. And so natural longleaf, for that reason, is tighter grained. The fire itself tends to scorch or kill the lower branches when the tree is forming. And so natural longleaf that's exposed to fire creates that very tall, stately pine that we think of when we think of an old longleaf. And so most of the lower branches have been scorched off, or they've been shaded out by the competition of other longleaf. And so you end up with these very tall, very straight trees that are tight grained and heavy. So they're significantly heavier than most of the other pines, and so they're worth more per ton. And so that very dense, straight wood is much higher quality. It's extremely strong. Heart pine, the center part of the tree, was shipped all over the world. Buildings in every major city in the eastern United States was built out of longleaf, during the industrial period. And its only weakness is fire. If a building built out of heart pine, a structure, home, once it catches fire, it's almost impossible to put out. But that heart, because of all those natural resins, longleaf is a very, very resinous tree. And over time, as the tree gets older and older, the heart begins to solidify, and so that's just the dead part of the most interior part of the tree, where the resins in the sap would normally flow up and down within the tree. The heart is where that flow of resins stops, and the sap just sits in one place and sort of cures into a natural, all those resins sort of cure and make a very hard, stable, very rot resistant, yet very flammable wood.
Amazing, isn't it? How a little seedling like that can grow in excess of 200 feet tall. But unlike your traditional row crops, which produce every year, pine trees take time and, let's be honest, a lot of patience. Georgia landowner Ed Thornton is a patient man. In fact, his family has been growing pine trees for generations. Here now, in his own words, Ed on how he's making sure that tradition will continue for generations to come.
The tract here was obtained by the family about 35 years ago, and we thinned it at the time we purchased it, and then we were in a partnership, and the partner passed away, so to settle the estate, his estate, we thinned again and purchased the entire tract from the partner. And that was probably about 25 years ago when we thinned it. So the trees that were remaining out here that we just harvested were 40 to 50 years old. And they were very large trees, some of them almost too large. The modern mills now are consolidating their machinery. They want a uniform tree that's about 20 to 22 inches in diameter. A lot of the trees we had out here were 24 to 28 or excessive. And it's getting to the point where the modern mills won't take the large timber. They want a quick turnaround, which for a landowner, the quicker you can turn a crop, the better you are in the return on your investment. So we're looking at about 18 to 20 years. We'll do a thinning here and harvest some pulp, timber for pulp, and then later on we'll harvest some larger timber for saw timber and dimensional lumber and that type thing. That'll be a little higher dollar market. You got to look at perspective of life. You know, you plant for your kids and future generations. And I might own the land here today, but I'm just borrowing it from a future generation. I've got to leave it in good hands for them. Nobody's promised another day. I might not even make it back home tonight. But everything I do today is for somebody in the future. So as farmers, we have to take care of the earth, take care of the property, and invest in it so that we can leave it in as good or better shape than we found it for the next generation. So that's what we're doing here. We got different practices in place to protect the water quality. We don't harvest within so many feet of the streams and the creeks, so that protects the water quality in the creeks. We put things in place to protect erosion and runoff. So, you know, we're after the quality of the earth. We want to leave it as good or better than we found it. So anything we can do to keep erosion and the water quality better, and then ensure a quality stand of pine trees out here for a quality product to harvest for the future generation, it's all good for everybody.
Yeah, great perspective from Ed's point of view, huh? And unfortunately, that is going to do it for this week's edition of the Farm Monitor. As we always say, just a friendly reminder that for all the latest ag info regarding food, great recipes, and what's happening down on the farm, be sure you check out our Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest pages. You'll stay informed and you'll see what's up in the world of farming and with us here at the show. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on the Farm Monitor. Stay safe.